All right, monosaccharides. I'm sorry, macromolecules. So we'll start off with carbohydrates. These are your sugars. It's a broad category of many different things. Actually, the sugar that we call table sugar is a disaccharide, sucrose. But their main thing is that they basically store chemical energy. And they are, of course, produced initially through the process of photosynthesis. Glucose is kind of like the building block sugar for many other types of sugars. But there's a lot of different ones. Plants will take that glucose that's made and make a lot of different substances from them. And they can be a single unit, which is a monosaccharide. Mono, of course, means one. And the most common example of that is glucose, like I said. Fructose is similar, used in fruits. It's actually a lot sweeter than glucose, and so it makes the fruit more attractive to eat. Disaccharides, there's a few of those. Lactose, by the way, is actually a disaccharide. Sucrose, table sugar, is a disaccharide. It's made up of two different units, a glucose and a fructose unit bound together. And so those are fairly common. And then you have some that are very long chain molecules, polymers, of different arrangements of glucose. Usually it's glucose or other things. And starch is an example of that. And starch is used by plants to store sugars. You typically find them in roots. Potatoes, you may know, have a lot of starch in them. That's because the potato plant is storing its sugar in these big molecules. But your body then breaks those down into individual sugars and things like that. So those are some examples. Another polysaccharide that is very common, really actually the most common biological molecule, which is cellulose. Cellulose is a polymer of glucose. It's one of the main things that plants use that glucose for. And like I said, all trees, all plant materials, all that kind of stuff, that's all made of cellulose, or the cell walls are, and so therefore it's a very common molecule. But also bacterial cell walls. A lot of those are types of polysaccharides, so they're very good at making these long chain polymers out of. Okay. Any questions about carbohydrates? Okay. Then we have your lipids. These are your fats. They are used. One of the main ways in which they're used, particularly in animals, is to store energy. They're very high in calorie value, but they don't break down fast. So because of that, your body actually takes a little bit more energy to metabolize them. They can be metabolically utilized when you go into somewhat of a starvation situation to burn that, or get more calories burnt than you're taking in. Your body can then rely upon your fat reserves, so that's one of the big uses for them. But they're also used in any type of either macro application, where you need a waterproof barrier. For example, the waxy coating that a lot of leaves and stuff have, that in order to allow the water to run off and drip off and not to collect on there. Also in the cell membrane, they serve as an integral part of that, because you don't want everything to just wash in and out of the cell, so you need somewhat of lipids in there, those fats in there, to make the kind of the envelope for that. And then they're integrated with proteins and stuff, which we'll talk about later, that allows certain things in and certain things out. But this big part of that is your lipids. They're oils, fats, not water soluble, which means they won't dissolve water. You know that if you try to wash the oils and stuff off of things with water, it doesn't come off. And that's some of the main purposes that they serve. Then we have nucleic acids. Now these are the molecules that carry the genetic code. The genetic code is primarily for making proteins. Proteins, as we see down here, made out of amino acids. The genetic code tells the cell what order to put those amino acids in, and that order ends up giving the properties of the protein to make it do what it wants to do. So what makes you different than other people is what's in your DNA, which has made you have different proteins than somebody else, and that's what's in your genes or in your genetic code. Okay. So DNA and RNA, most common type. They are made out of a sugar group. It's a 5-carbon sugar, and then that will have a phosphate group on one side, and it's with that phosphate group that it will join up to another sugar, ribose group, and then also hanging off of that sugar group, like I said, the pentagonal looking ones, and I'll show you guys diagrams next class, but is what they call a nitrogenous base. It's a base with nitrogen atoms in it, and that serves as the pairs. And hopefully you've heard a little bit about, or you know a little bit about the structure of DNA and RNA that has these pairs in it that basically are the letters of the genetic code. Okay, so we'll go into a lot of details about that later, but I'll show you a diagram tomorrow to reinforce how that looks and everything like that. And then finally we've got proteins. Very important molecules. This basically makes every organism what it is, because not only does it provide structure, but it also provides enzymes and other kind of chemicals that dictate what a cell is going to do. So they're made out of amino acids, and very long chains, typically tens of thousands of amino acids in length, your average protein. They have and the amino acids themselves, we're talking about the monomer now, it has an acid side and an amino side. The amino side is a basic side. So we got your basic amine group that's got a nitrogen in it. Once again, I'll show you guys diagrams tomorrow. And then it's got an acid group. So you may know that if you bring an acid and base together, they will react. And so that's how these amino acids join together to end up forming long chain proteins and stuff. Put your phone down, please. Thanks. All right. So the thing that makes each, so that's the same for all the proteins. The amino acids is the carboxylic and the amine group. But then each one of these will also have, hanging off the side, what they call an R group. It's a special type of molecule. Some of them are very small, like the methyl group, but some are big and complex. And it's that combination, so the order and everything of those, the way they interact with each other, that will determine how that protein acts, what it does and stuff. And so that's why I said that's what's the importance of the genetic code, is this going to tell what order and everything these amino acids are in, and basically make the protein what it is. All right, so these proteins, a lot of proteins are what we call structural. They just make up the structure of organisms, organs, and stuff like that. For example, the protein that is in your skin is called the main type of protein that gives your skin structure and everything is called collagen. That's why people that want to erase wrinkles and stuff, one of the things that they put in is they'll inject collagen into your skin. I don't know if it works or not. It's not the same as Botox, but that's the idea behind it, because that's the main type of protein. You can fill your skin out, I guess. But there's a number of different types of structural proteins, and then a lot of proteins are functional in that they perform very important tasks, such as hemoglobin, which you may know that carries the oxygen in our blood. And also a lot of proteins serve as catalysts. We'll talk about that more later. But they're catalysts called enzymes. Catalysts make reactions go a lot faster than they normally would. And so that's what happens in your cell a lot of times, is these chemical reactions. And these catalysts make them actually happen at a rate that we can use them. Any questions? Yes?
What does it say in between fructose and saccharides or saccharides?
Die?
Okay.
Die.
Got it.
Die.
Got it.
Oh.
Means two. All right.